Welcome back, everybody. So you're planning a ride out. On video 2 we'll be talking what tools we take with. On video 1 I'll tell you how we plan and build a bit of preventative maintenance into the motorcycle prior a ride out. Stick around and watch this episode. Right, so we're planning a ride out. Let's have a look quickly. Pre-ride out. What I do on my motorcycle. As you know, I have the 990 and the Africa Twin, and don't shoot me on this, but if you would take me up into Africa, I would rather stick with the Africa Twin. It's more robust, it's easily maintainable, it's got carbs. There's nothing wrong with the build quality on either of the two motorcycles, but I'm just more familiar with the older one. Personal preference. Right, pre-ride out. So in the second video we talk about what the tools is that we take with and we use. First video, tires. A lot of you might not take a lot of notice of what tires you use. You put a set of 50-50 tires on and you go. Not the case. When you buy tires, make sure that you ask for tires that have a fairly thick sidewall. If you do pick up a puncher and it's a flat wheel, I've had this bike, I rode at least 50 k's on a complete flat blown out rear wheel. It didn't come off the rim. I managed to do 80 k's an hour. The tire of choice is the Anarchy Wild or the Anarchy series. They do have thick sidewalls, and I use them on the front as well. Now on the 990 I rather prefer the Scorpions, also thick sidewall, but it's a bit of a less, it's a 70-30 tire. The 990 has a lot of torque, and I kept losing knobblies at some stage on one old tire that I had on. Also remember, the bigger your knobblies are on your tire, the further apart they are, the more easily you're prone for punches. So try and get a tread pattern that's close. Realistically, if you go riding, I mean we don't do mountains really with the adventure bikes that are heavy, but you do get cases where you need it. If you have traction control on your bike, the 990R doesn't have it. The Africa Twin doesn't have it. Traction control is nice. You can get away with a 50-50 tire. It will give you grip, and it will give you a more secure footing on the road. But let's quickly have a chat through. Tire is very important. Choose the right tire. Sidewall thickness, definite must. You can get your tubes, when you fit a tire, get your nice thick tubes, inner wall tubes. They are a bit more expensive, but they work. Chain and maintenance. So irrespective of what tools you use, make sure your maintenance is done properly on your chain and sprockets. If you go for a ride and you're doing 2000 k's, your slack should be, your tension should be fine on your chain, your sprockets should be fair condition. If you see a problem, have a look at it, change it out. Also on the Africa Twin, check the rear wheel bearing on the sprocket itself. On the inner sprocket there's a bearing. Mine has worn out years ago, and I've replaced it. I didn't check that, so make sure that all your wheel bearings are fine. Battery, don't start your trip with a shot battery. Get it tested. Take it to somebody if you don't know how to test it yourself. Just have them have a look at the battery. A lot of cases, remember, you'll be riding, stopping. A lot of time is going to be spent on the starter. Make sure you have a fresh battery. Tubes we've discussed a bit. Brake pads, have a look at your brake pads. I love the people that do preventative maintenance on their own motorcycles. Getting your hands a bit dirty, it's nice. You look after your own things. Remember, today's market, labor is expensive. So if you take something in, labor is going to kill you. And the nice thing about it is if you do maintenance on your own motorcycle, you actually know what to look out for. If there's a problem that you pick up somewhere, then you're familiar with the area where the problem originates from. Oil and oil filter plugs. If you're doing 5,000 Ks, do an oil change. Buy an oil filter, buy proper oil. Don't skimp on the quality of oil. Make sure you buy the correct viscosity for your motorcycle. On the older bikes, 15W40 works for me. 990 is a different story. But yeah, that's a full synthetic oil. It's completely different. Boot riding, temperature switch. I want to talk about the boot riding. Caleb, can you maybe give me that boot? Hold on a second. Does it? Okay. A lot of times when you're doing long stretches of road riding, people tend to forget you don't have a lot of feel in your thick boots, riding boots. You tend to lose feeling in it. So what I do is I would have my foot rest on the peg, but have it a bit on the side, on the right hand side. Yeah, just show there. I don't want it on the peg all the time on the brake. I keep it resting a bit off the side. You'll be surprised to see how much people ride on the rear brake without actually knowing about it. And your disc gets blue warm. That's just a tip on riding long stretches of road. Avoid pressing your rear brake continuously with your boot because you just don't have the sense of feel in the boot. Temperature switch. Make sure that you need to remember that if you do a bit of bush riding, you will have people standing in front of you minutes at a time, and in the sun these things, if they don't have wind flowing over them, they can cook up fairly quickly. So make sure your temperature switch is good. This one I haven't changed yet. The 990 I removed the 100-degree one when it kicks in, and I installed the 80-degree, 85, so it comes in earlier and it keeps it down and it switches off. Yes, your fan runs more, but it's not a problem for the fan. It's an electrical component. They run forever if they're good. Axles tightening. Believe it or not, a lot of people know about it, but your rear axle and your front axle actually have torque specifications as well, for those that don't know. You get people where they've taken in the motorcycles to have the wheels quickly changed, new tires on, but the guys at the garages, it's like they try and flip the bike over and stand on a wrench to get it tight, and they really over tighten it. So take care, make sure that your specs are correct on that. Don't over tighten your rear axle and your front axle. It's not rocket science, but it's something that you really have to have a look at. And then on the tires and the knobblies, we did talk about the amount of knobblies, the spread of the tire. Yeah, it's a nice fat tire always looks awesome on an adventure bike, but there is method in the madness built in. So see what tire works for you, but start with a thick sidewall tire. Yeah, it's a bit more difficult taking it out, but then again, this is why we do the new tires. We have a look at the thicker tubes. We build in a lot of preventative maintenance into the bike even before we plan on taking any tools on the ride with. Brake pads, if there's a brake pad that's a bit worn down, know the amount of kilos that you're going to ride, replace them. And if you, this is also a question that I get a lot, is people asking, yes, well, what about fuel, the range? Now, I haven't ever done a trip in Africa where I've exceeded about 300, 350 Ks that you don't find fuel. Clean fuel, that's a different story. Hence, that's why I love the Africa Twin. You can mostly chuck anything in it and it will run. Flying Brick sells a 5-liter plastic container that you can bolt on. 5 liters is a lot of petrol, people. You can really get places with that. So don't let the fuel range bother you too much. But you need to also plan in that when you're going to do bush riding, you're going to chow more petrol in the bush. Off-road conditions, sand, the motor will work harder. Very important, keep your oil level always up on these things. They will run forever, but maintain the oil level. And I think that is about it pre-ride out. Things that you really need to take a look at. Importantly, have the additional clutch cable built in for you. Just tie it off on the one side, and then I'll list all the list on the screen for you guys. You can have a look. But yeah, go and enjoy it. Take a ride out. 300 k's a day. Plan your route properly. Visit a lot of scenery. See what's going on around you. Meet people. Don't get stranded somewhere alone. Try and take a rider with you, or a few friends. It's always better in a group. And don't make stupid decisions. But that's about it. And happy riding. Enjoy.